So this is one of the books that I have at my house that I really like and that I thought would be fun to read. But this book is really for children who are a little bit older than children that are in a preschool classroom or at Head Start. It's a true story about a man named Sequoyah, so it's a biography about Sequoyah. I would say that this is probably a good book for someone in kindergarten or first grade, maybe even second grade. But if you're in preschool or Head Start and you're a little younger and you think you would be interested in this story about this man named Sequoyah, then I hope you'll listen too. The name of the book is Sequoyah, the Cherokee Man Who Gave His People Writing. And it's by James Rumford. And it's translated by Anna Sixkiller Huckabee. So Sequoyah, the Cherokee Man Who Gave His People Writing. Up here it says, translated into Cherokee by Anna Sixkiller Huckabee with the author's deep appreciation. So what does that mean that it was translated by Anna Sixkiller Huckabee? So on this page, up here are words in English. Down here are the same words in a different language. These words are in the Cherokee language. And this book is about Sequoyah. So here he is. And he created the Cherokee syllabary, which is the way that you can write the Cherokee language. So in English, we use an alphabet to write our words. In Cherokee, you use a syllabary to write the words. And Anna Sixkiller Huckabee took the words that James Rumford wrote in English, and then she wrote them in Cherokee. So she translated it. She took these English words and she wrote them in Cherokee. And that's one of the reasons that I really like this book. So this story starts in California in 1958. And this isn't when this man Sequoyah was alive. This is sort of telling the story of how the author of this book learned about Sequoyah. California, 1958. Look at the tall trees, says my father. They are redwood trees. They have been alive for thousands of years. They're called the giant sequoia. Where did the name come from? It came from the name of a Cherokee Indian man who was alive when the United States was new. And so this is the part in English, and then right down here is the same words in Cherokee. This Sequoyah must have been famous, we say. He must have fought bravely and led his people well. He must have been as tall and as strong as these trees. Yes, my father says, but not in the way that you might think. This man called Sequoyah was crippled. He was born in eastern Tennessee in the 1760s, the son of a Cherokee woman and a white man that he never knew. For much of his life, Sequoyah was nobody famous. He was a metal worker who could turn iron into chisels and drills and Georgia silver into forks and spoons. So here he is. He's using, this is called a forge, and he's using it to work with metal. Sequoyah was not a chief, but he loved his people like one. He wanted them to stand as tall as any people on earth. He did not want them to disappear in the white man's world. He did not want their Cherokee voices to fade away. When he was 50, they say, he decided to capture the people's voices in writing. But Sequoyah, they tell us, knew no English and couldn't read, not even the letter A. But that didn't matter to Sequoyah. I will invent writing for our people, he said. Everybody laughed. Writing will make us strong, he said. No one believed him. Sequoyah began drawing hundreds of symbols, one for each word. He scratched them on slats of wood and filled his cabin with shingles of writing. So here he is. He's making one piece of wood for every word in the Cherokee language. He is crazy, the people jeered. They feared his signs were evil. We should teach him a lesson, the neighbors hooted. They saw no use for writing. Let's burn down his cabin, they cried. We have to make him stop. So here's his cabin on fire. There's Sequoyah. So they burned his cabin down and turned his writing into smoke. But Sequoyah learned a different lesson. Sometimes disaster happens for a reason. Sometimes it says, follow a different path. Sequoyah, they say, gave up drawing a different symbol for each word. There were just too many marks and squiggles for anyone to remember. Instead, they tell us, he invented letters to spell out the sounds of the language. When he had enough letters, about 84 or so, he began writing. His neighbors stopped laughing when Sequoyah's 6-year-old daughter, Ayoka, learned to read. The people stopped jeering when 2 warriors wrote to each other. And down here, it has how Sequoyah wrote his daughter Ayoka's name. The people, they say, learned Cherokee letters quickly. Mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters left notes around the house so they could teach each other to read. People took trips so they could have the fun of writing letters and sending them back home. It was not long, they tell us, before everyone was reading and writing. The Cherokee Nation praised the writing Sequoyah invented, and in 1824 they gave Sequoyah a silver medal. So another thing I like about this story is it talks about people helping each other learn to read. So they put notes around the house so that they could read. They wrote letters. And those are things that we talk about in our classrooms are good ways for children to learn how to read. If you put letters and words up around your house or practice writing letters. And right now seems like a really great time if anyone wanted to pick a friend and write a letter to them and send it in the mail. Since we don't really get to see our friends as much, that could be a good way to practice writing and keep in touch with your friends. A missionary named Worcester, or maybe it was Worcester, helped Sequoyah turn his beautiful loops and spirals into sturdy English-looking symbols that could be printed with lead type. With these new signs, the Cherokee Nation published newspapers and books and made sure that the words would never fade away. So this is another one of the things I really love about this book, is right here, there's a Cherokee man, and he's setting lead type in the Cherokee syllabary. And then they're using this printing press to print it. And I get really excited about this because my sweetheart Tracy has a letterpress where she sets lead type from the English alphabet to make words in English and print them on a letterpress. Even when soldiers forced the people from their lands and sent them west in the 1830s, the Cherokee held on to their books. Even when sickness half emptied their towns, they kept their writing. Even when English-speaking teachers ruled their classrooms, long after Sequoyah had passed away, they remembered their letters. They never let them disappear. Now, who was this Sequoyah, my father asks. He was a famous man, we say, because he invented writing for the Cherokee. He was a brave man because he never gave up. He was a leader because he showed his people how to survive, how to stand tall and proud like these trees. So that's the end of the story. And at the end of the book, it shows the Cherokee syllabary, and it tells us a little bit about it. So I'm going to read some of what it says. English speakers use an alphabet to spell the sounds of a word. Cherokee speakers use a syllabary and write the syllables of a word. On this page, it tells us a little bit more about Sequoyah and also about the trees that have his name. Sequoyah trees were first described in a scientific way by an Austrian man named Stephen Inlicher. When he died, scientists found his description of a tree along with a curious hard-to-read name. Some thought the name was Sequoyah. Others were not so sure. How could a European know about a Cherokee man? It was unlikely, except for one thing. Inlicher was known to be interested in languages and writing systems from all over the world. Sequoyah's genius is rare. Only a handful of people in the last 7,000 years can claim to have invented a writing system. Sequoyah's system was not like ours. He did not invent an alphabet of 26 letters. He invented a syllabary of 84 signs, one for each syllable of the Cherokee language. Sequoyah's syllabary is still used today, and Sequoyah is honored as a hero, not only of the Cherokee people, but of our nation as well. His statue stands in the U.S. Capitol building, and his likeness graces the bronze doors of the Library of Congress. There's so many things that I liked about this book, and I hope you liked it too. I like that it was written in 2 languages, that it was translated from English to Cherokee. I like the illustrations, how they look like woodcuts. I like that it talked about printing on a printing press. I think it's just really remarkable that someone was able to create a whole new writing system, a whole new way to write a language. Like James Rumford said, Sequoyah was nobody famous. He was an everyday Cherokee man. He was a metal worker with a disability, and yet he did this amazing thing. I also really liked the part of the book where it talked about Cherokee people helping each other learn how to read and write. I hope that gave you some ideas of ways you could practice reading and writing at home. I also hope you just enjoyed learning more about Sequoyah. I'm really looking forward to when we can all be back together reading stories. And I hope that you're doing well.